Hello world, it's your boy J. Wil.
I'm Hollywood Kas.
And we're going to be discussing the upside on COSIGN Film reviews. Alright, welcome to the first episode of COSIGN Film Reviews. I go by the name of J. Wil.
And I'm Hollywood Kas.
And today we're going to be discussing the upside. So what's interesting about this film is I kind of knew what to expect going in because it was based on a film called The Untouchables that came out in 2011. It was a French film, and it's currently considered one of the most successful foreign films of all time.
It made a lot of fucking waves.
It did. It won a lot of awards. Like, it won the French equivalent of an Oscar over there, the César Award. So it's a highly accredited film. It did really well overseas. So the film had a lot of had some big shoes to fill.
Huge shoes to fill.
Huge shoes to fill. And the film already kind of ran into a little bit of controversy before it came out because the Weinstein Company produced it. And of course, before the film could come out, Harvey Weinstein had his situation that took place.
Yeah.
So the film had a little bit of an issue getting released at first, but it finally came out. It stars Kevin Hart, Bryan Cranston, and Nicole Kidman. And the film follows a quadriplegic who that's played by Bryan Cranston, who is looking for someone to be his new caretaker. And it just so happens that Kevin Hart stumbles into the interview of being interviewed for the position, and it ends up getting it. So first thoughts, what is it after watching the film, what did you think about it?
It was actually a pretty decent film.
Now let's go ahead and get some context. Hollywood Kas and I, we disagree on this topic, which is Kevin Hart funny? Sure. I personally think Kevin Hart is very funny. I've enjoyed almost all of his stand-up specials. A good portion of his films I like. So I actually am a fan of Kevin Hart. Kas, on the other hand,
he doesn't even make me snicker. Not even a little bit. So I was a little hesitant to see this. I mean, I knew I was going to go see it, but I was not excited about it. Yeah. It was one of those films where I was not excited about it. And when I got in there, I kind of expected it to be... I expected it to not be horrible, but I didn't expect it to be good either. And it actually was kind of surprisingly pretty good.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed it as well. Again, I had an idea of what to expect going in because I knew about the film it was based on. I will say, overall, I enjoyed it. Initially, it was hard for me to get into because you have to get past the fact that it's Kevin Hart trying to be serious. That initial hump for me was like the first 10-15 minutes. Once you start seeing the chemistry between Bryan Cranston's character and Kevin Hart's character, it actually makes the film, like, the film was over 2 hours, but it didn't feel like it because their chemistry together worked really well and it made the film flow.
And I think one of the good choices too is that they didn't force, Kevin Hart didn't have to just really stretch. Yeah. In terms of, he wasn't going from comedic acting to playing in Monsters Ball. He's really an extension of himself. Right. It's kind of like Eminem in 8 Mile. He's playing an extension of himself. Who better to play this character than Kevin Hart? Because it's literally almost feels like it was written for Kevin Hart. You know what I mean?
It was an interesting take on it. Nicole Kidman, like we said, was in it as well. And it was interesting for me because it's rare we see Nicole Kidman look regular and play regular. She's very extravagant in her film choices, and of course she's an extremely beautiful woman. So it was interesting to see her kind of taken down a little bit, more regular, more down to earth, more everyday persona. And you can tell she cared very deeply for Bryan Cranston's character, which her character works for him and is helping to find his new caretaker. So it was very star-studded from the cast so far.
It was.
What did you think about the aspect of, I get told this all the time, like, because I am an aspiring actor, that it would be hard for someone to see me play somebody who's been to prison. Did that kind of take you out of it for Kevin Hart, him being that type of character?
Not necessarily. To me, Kevin Hart, the character they had in play, it didn't feel like he was like a hardened criminal. Yeah. It felt like somebody who had ran into some bumps, ran into some troubles,
made some mistakes.
And I honestly think Kevin Hart played that well.
Right.
I think he looked rugged enough for that role. He definitely didn't look as shiny as we used to seeing Kevin Hart.
Right.
I think they did good with that. I think it wasn't too much of a stretch. And I think, honestly, in my opinion, it's a fairly regular script.
Yeah.
It's a story we feel like we've seen before somewhere. I don't think it's a game changer by any means, but the thing that I really do think anchors the film is the chemistry between those three.
Oh, yeah.
Between Nicole Kidman, Bryan Cranston, and Kevin Hart.
No, I think that really sells the film. It's one of those films where it's not so much that there isn't much to the writing, but it's driven by the performances.
It is. It's definitely.
The story is good. The script is good, but it's driven by the performances.
Definitely.
So if it wasn't if the chemistry wasn't right between the main actors, I don't think it would have worked. I think that was a very vital part of it. So what are some of the things that you feel could have been improved upon?
I can tell you, even though I have not seen the French film, I guarantee you the French film, just knowing French film cinema versus American cinema, the French film is probably more groundbreaking in terms of how that script reads out.
Probably.
I'm about 100% sure. This film follows all the beats of a feel-good film.
Right.
Everything about it feels good. Nobody's going to leave with any questions unanswered. It's paint by numbers. That's that's oftentimes a negative for me.
Yeah, but in this case, it's not so much.
It's not necessarily a negative, but it definitely makes it where I know this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen.
Right.
It's very predictable. It's a lot of the beats are you know where it's going, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that makes it not a groundbreaking film. It's just a really solid film, but it's not a great film by any means.
Right. For me, typically, I'm very nitpicky. You know this about me. You'll learn as you watch more episodes. I'm very nitpicky. With this one, but, with that in mind, there are certain films I know what to look for, what to expect, what to kind of pick apart. With this film, the structure it follows, there's not a lot to pick apart.
It services its customer. Its customer is a guy who wants to watch something like Shawshank Redemption with with more predictable beats
and less of a runtime, because Shawshank Redemption is like 4 hours.
Yeah, it is. It's really long, but it's in terms of you by the end of this film are going to smile. I think we know that from the previews, from the tone of the film, from the beginning of the film. This is designed to make me smile. Yeah, which
isn't a bad thing.
Isn't a bad thing. It's just don't go in here thinking you're about to go on a roller coaster ride of emotion. No.
And every now and then that's a good thing to experience.
It's cool. It's definitely
I don't want to go to the theater and feel like my mind has been going through the mental ringer every time I go. Like, sometimes I want to feel good movie. Sometimes I want a movie with a lot of explosions.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want a superhero movie. You know what to expect when you go into it. And with this film, it's just a feel-good story that with great chemistry from its lead actors. And so far, this is going to be, we're recording this before the box office reports come out, but from what I've seen, it's going to debut at number 1.
I believe it because I went to 2 theaters today and there were very few seats left.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was kind of shocking.
Yeah. So it's probably going to be a number 1, which is very well. I mean, there's not much at the box office right now, but Mary Poppins Returns is still in theaters. Aquaman is still in theaters. Bumblebee is still in theaters. On the Basis of Sex, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie, came out this weekend, and so that got a wide release. So it still had competition for the most part, and it did well.
Let me ask you this question. It's sitting at like about 33% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, which is relatively low, a really low score.
Right.
What do you think kept the critics from for panning it so hard? Because I don't really think it's a pannable movie.
I don't think so
either. I
get
why it's not. People aren't jumping out of to write these like loving sentences about the film, but I also don't get why it's being panned though.
Here's what I think it is, and it kind of goes to our conversation we've had about music artists, which is, in this day and age, it's better to be it's better to make some type of impact, like get people talking. You know, this movie doesn't really get you talking.
No, you're not gonna leave this in. You're not gonna leave the film.
And that can trick some writers and some critics into thinking it's not that good of a film, because maybe it's not making some people rush to go see it again. Or maybe if someone asks them if it's a good movie, they say, oh, it was okay. You know, the idea that it's not something that you're straight up saying you have to go see this film is probably making certain critics and certain writers be just be kind of lukewarm on it, and in turn turns into its reception of it.
That makes sense. I get that, because I saw that. I was like, once I saw the film, I was like, 33%.
Yeah, I would rate it more so around a 55%.
That's what I thought. That's what I would think it would be. I thought it would be a little closer to the 50.
Yeah, I think I would rank it around a 55% if it was me personally. I do think this is a film you should see for multiple different reasons. We've said them, of course. But I'm interested to see where. I mean, we all know, if you watch films, if you watch Breaking Bad, you know Bryan Cranston is an incredible actor.
Bryan Cranston is a beast,
hands down.
Great Heisenberg.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman, one of the greatest actresses of all time.
She's cold.
I'm interested to see what this does for Kevin Hart moving forward. It reminds me of when Steve Carell started making the transition into more serious work. The first film that was kind of in this vein was like Dan in Real Life, which is one of my favorite films. And it's not, like you said, this movie isn't too far away from who Kevin Hart is.
Crazy.
Dan in Real Life wasn't too far away from the style of acting Steve Carell typically did. It was just kind of like more centered, a little slower, and just more thought out. And then we get to a Foxcatcher eventually.
Yeah, where he turns
into a totally different person.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what happens with Kevin Hart moving forward. I'm really interested to see it, and I think this is a good start for him moving into that realm. Do you think possibly the issues Kevin Hart is having personally might have gotten in the way of some of the critiques?
100%.
You think that might have something to do with it as well?
100%.
Okay.
I think it's very difficult today, almost impossible, for critics to critique a film independently of what's going on in that person's in that person's private life.
Right.
And I think prime example, I saw somebody review it and said something about the sequence where he doesn't want to put the catheter. This isn't a spoiler at all, but when he doesn't want to, there's a catheter joke going on in the film, and I saw somebody wrote about how it kind of teeters on homophobic, and I was like, yeah, that's only because of what Kevin Hart's currently going through.
I didn't get that vibe when I watched it.
Not even in
that
the
wasn't
slightest.
Something that kind of jumped out to me
at all. I was almost waiting for it because I had saw it in the review, and I was like, is this gonna be uncomfortable? Is this gonna be a bad look for Kevin Hart? And I was like, man, that flew by. That's not even a focal point. But I think these writers are definitely touched by the headlines.
Yeah,
I believe that.
So what's something in the film for people who haven't seen it yet? What is it that we can tell them about the film, or something that's in the film that we would think would get them to go see it?
To be honest with you, it's kind of, I would definitely say this is one of those films where when you've seen the trailer, you get the tone, you know what it's about, you pretty much know exactly what you're going into from watching the trailer. There's no deterrence from that. There's no big jumps away from that vibe. But what I will say, if you're looking for a film in a kind of world where there's not very much lighthearted stuff available, I would say if you're looking for something lighthearted, this is the go-to lighthearted film on the market right now.
Right.
Because you've got other films that I think are beautiful, like the Beale Street.
Right.
But it's not this. This is like specifically for that person that wants to go see a film that's lighthearted, got a lot of brevity, not too much emotional heft. It's just a kind of nice film to see.
Mm-hmm. So overall, what would you rate it?
On a, let's say, a letter grade or a scale, 1 to 10.
Scale.
On a 10-point scale, I would give it about a 7.
7? I'll give it a 7.5.
Not mad at that.
So I guess it's safe to say that we think that you should go see this film.
Yeah, go see it. Go check it out. You'll definitely leave that mug smiling and shit. It'll be crazy.
All right, so for COSIGN Film, it's your boy Jay Will
and Hollywood Kas.
See you guys next time.